What's going on, Tide Nation? It is Friday, and it's time to get it poppin' with the hottest show on the streets, the number one forum for Crimson Tide football news. That being, in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Gotta shout out my man, Mr. John Ivory, bringing us in with a little something soulful on the beat coming into the show. But as always, I'm excited to have everybody tune into the show. On this evening, we got a lot to talk about and discuss as the show brought to you by WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. That is WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. If you haven't done so already, go ahead right now and purchase you that four-finger bling necklace, four-finger bling jewelry, showing that support for Nick Saban, the University of Alabama football program, and these fine student athletes, as Alabama having that tradition for dominating, owning the fourth quarter. So if you haven't done so already, go to WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com and pick you up that four-finger bling necklace today. We're bringing you the show from Tuscaloosa, streaming this through YouTube. Speaking of the channel, go ahead right now, like the show up, give a thumbs up on the show, hit that subscribe button, and turn on all of those notifications so that way you can have the best news, notes, analysis, and commentary on your favorite program, that being the Crimson Tide. Not only are we bringing this to you from YouTube, but also Facebook land out there. We're streaming this live to Facebook and to the Twitter verse as well. So we got you covered here on all forms of that social media, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Once again, a lot to talk about because after 2 weeks of no football, after you guys have gone through withdrawals, Alabama football withdrawals through 2 weeks, the Crimson Tide will be back on the field this weekend on tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Time, inside Bryant-Denny Stadium to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. The SEC Network will have the call on the game. So a lot to break down, a lot to discuss, a lot to kind of sort of dive into. And we want you guys to be a part of the conversation, absolutely. 205-448-1358, the number to call in to do that. Letting your voice be heard, 205-448-1358. And one more time, 205-448-1358. Want to hear from you. I got to give a special happy birthday shout out to the Chief Operating Officer of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, one Brandon Williams, who celebrated his birthday on yesterday. So big ups there to Brandon. Hopefully he really enjoyed himself on his birthday. And if you haven't done this already, as much as I enjoy covering Alabama football, and I do, been doing this for 12 years for TDA, as much as I enjoy talking about the Crimson Tide on the football field, I have been an avid fan of Alabama men's basketball since I was 8 years old. The furthest this team has ever gone in my lifetime was I was 12. It was 2004. It got to the Elite Eight that year with Antoine Petway and those guys under head coach Mark Gottfried. Well, if you haven't gotten your Alabama men's basketball tickets, I urge you to get those. The season starts next week on Wednesday, and with the talent that Nate Oates has compiled on this roster, I'm just going to say this. The furthest I want is the Sweet 16. That's all I want. I want Alabama to win the SEC tournament and get to the Sweet 16. If it does that, I'm fine. But if it gets higher than the Sweet 16, just go ahead and bury me in the backyard. Go ahead right now, bury me alive in the backyard if it gets past the Sweet 16. So definitely, if you haven't done so, get those tickets for Bama men's basketball as well. We got a couple of super chats to start the show off with. How about Jimmy Clay starting us off with that $20 donation via the super chats? Appreciate that, Jimmy Clay. Oh, and Roll Tide and Rise Up, not to be outdone. Roll Tide and Rise Up throwing in that $10 donation via the super chats as well. But had to get my basketball feeling out of me. But we dive in now to the first topic of conversation for tonight's show. And people, if you remember, I said on Monday's show that I had heard from quality, credible sources, people I trust, people I speak with, people that do not mind feeding me information from what's going on in this program, I was told that Jaylen Waddle, Alabama junior wide receiver, Jaylen Waddle, is ahead of schedule in terms of recovering from a right ankle injury he suffered against Tennessee. Of course, according to Coach Saban, after that game, he said Waddle would miss the remainder of the season. The sources I've spoken with told me he's ahead of schedule in terms of that recovery process, and there is growing optimism that Alabama could potentially have Waddle back in time for the college football playoff. I was also told that Waddle would have the cast removed from his right leg this week. Coach Saban, on his Hey Coach show on Thursday, confirmed everything that my sources told me. Waddle does have, officially, the cast removed from his leg. This took place on Thursday, and according to Coach Saban, doing well, feeling well, very excited, actually wants to get back on the field and try to play again this year. So listen to Coach Saban. This is Coach Saban from the Hey Coach show on Thursday, answering the questions on Jaylen Waddle and his process or progress to get back on the field at some point.
How's Jaylen Waddle doing? I know the fans are always curious as to guys rehabbing. How's he coming along?
He's doing great. He really is. I actually talked to him for a minute today. He was out of practice, and he got his cast off today, so he's in a boot, which really now they can start not doing running type stuff, but just rehabbing, massaging, doing some range of motion type stuff that'll, sort of keep the atrophy down, and those kind of injuries are the most difficult things. So we're very encouraged. Everybody thinks he's doing really, really well, and he's had a great attitude about it, and he's going to work hard, and he told me that he wants to try to come back and play, but we're certainly not going to let that happen until, he's fully 100% healthy.
That was Coach Saban from Thursday's edition of Hey Coach, talking about one Jaylen Waddle. He's out of the cast. I told you this on Monday, but I was told he would be out of the cast this week. He got out of the cast on Thursday, officially in a walking boot, going through the rehab. And like Coach Saban mentioned, he wants to be back on the field with his teammates, with his brothers playing college football. And for a lot of you out there, the idea was, well, Waddle, don't force it, don't worry about it. We know you're good. We know that you're great. Go ahead and prepare yourself for the NFL draft. And while I understand a lot of people that think that way and have those thoughts, at the same time, I am an advocate of there are a lot of young athletes that truly love the college football game. They love the camaraderie, they love the bond, they love the pageantry, they love everything that is college football. And let's be honest, this is the one time in your life, aside from high school ball, where you get to bond with players that are in your age group. Think about that. This is the one time you get to bond with players in your age group, in your same type of, vicinity, so to speak. This is the opportunity where you get to hang out with those guys, cheer with those guys. The college life, 3 to 4 years of college life is something that, it only happens once. It only happens really once in a lifetime, and you don't get a chance to really, get that back. And I know to go to the NFL and make the money and make the big bucks is a big deal. But when you go to the professional ranks, now you're dealing with athletes that are much older than you, athletes that have, wives and children and families. So they're not going to be able to hang out with you as you would like for them to. And you would be fortunate to maybe find a couple of guys on your team in the NFL to really chill and bond with. But in college, everybody's around the same age. Everybody kind of has some similar interest. Everybody kind of has some similar hobbies. So in college football, there's a lot of that camaraderie. There's a lot of that brotherhood. There's a lot of that pageantry. And there's just, athletes out there that really enjoy, really seek after, really go after the college football lifestyle. And for one, Jaylen Waddle, with him out of his cast and in the walking boot, just to me here, I would think that you've got the training staff, You've got the team doctors. Everybody is working with Waddle and trying to tell him, hey, you hit this rehab the way that you're capable of hitting this rehab. There is an opportunity. There's a chance that you could be back on the field in time for the college football playoff to be with your brothers, to be with your teammates. And you best believe that Waddle is processing this. He is understanding this. He is keeping things in the right perspective. But at the same time, this is going through his mind of, if I do this the right way, if I look at what Jeff Allen and Dr. Andrews and Dr. Kane and David Ballou and Dr. Matt Ray, if I listen to what each of these guys, what they're telling me to do, and I attack it correctly, and I attack it properly, and I hit the ground running, because I've been through, and I being Jaylen Waddle, I've been through adversity my entire life, and I've been able to attack that adversity head on and have success, then if I do this correctly, then there's a huge chance, a good opportunity that I can get back on the field with this team and make a college football playoff run here, with my teammates. And, if Waddle is able to do this, then you look at having that explosive playmaker back, especially when you talk about taking on teams like Ohio State that has a good defense, taking on teams like Clemson, who typically has a good defense, taking on teams like, if a Notre Dame gets in under Brian Kelly, who has a pretty solid defense, taking on, different teams in college football that, might get in to the college football playoff. And these groups that have really solid defenses, really solid groups on that side of the football, you have an explosive weapon there in Waddle that can not just beat you in the receiving game, but beat you in the return game, that stretches defenses thin and that puts that added fear, frustration, doubt, concern in the minds of opposing defensive coordinators and opposing defensive players, that you have to fully scheme for him just by himself. I mean, you have to fully understand and recognize, where is number 17 in relation to the field? Where is number 17 in relation to the play? Where is number 17 in relation to the ball, in relation to the formation, the scheme, the strategy? We have to know where 17 is at any given moment, at any given time, and at any given situation. So hearing the news that he is officially, out of the cast, in the walking boot, and has that urge, that zeal to want to get back on the field, to want to get back in the action with his teammates. This is very, positive news or positive signing for one, Jaylen Waddle. And just me personally, I feel like he's going to attack that rehab there with tremendous vigor. And just, if there was any type of solace here, for Waddle, he knows that the medical staff at Alabama and the training staff at Alabama, these guys are gold mines when you look at getting players healed up, stitched up from injury, getting them through the rehab, and getting them back on the field to have success. There's so many guys you can think about when you look at Tua Tagovailoa, C.J. Mosley, Sean Deion Hamilton, Kenyon Drake, Christian Miller, Terrell Lewis, Anthony Jennings. I mean, the list goes on. So many players that have battled through injuries, and they've got, and the training staff, the medical staff have gotten their hands on those guys. They've got them through the surgery. They've got them through the rehab, and they were able to put them back on the field. And a lot of these guys are having very successful careers in the pro ranks right now. But the news of the day, Jaylen Waddle, according to Coach Saban, out of the cast of on his right leg, in a walking boot, taking part in the rehab, and he's got that zeal to want to get back on the field with his teammates. So definitely will keep you updated there on Waddle as he tries to make that push to come back possibly for the college football playoff. We take our first break here on In My Own Words. Don't touch that dial, just getting started. When we get back, we entertain your phone calls, your thoughts, your tweets, your chats, your concerns on the Alabama Crimson Tide right after this.
You're watching In My Own Words with Stephen M. Smith, brought to you by We Own the Fourth Quarter. Get your four-finger bling necklace today by visiting weownthefourthquarter.com. Throw them foes up. sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today.
Remember the taste of Grandma's delicious sweets? Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes brings back those precious memories with just one bite. Each cake made from scratch. They make the perfect dessert to share with family and friends for any occasion, and ordering is easy. Visit emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Click the online store and shop. Then pick up your fresh cake at the kitchen in downtown Homewood. Order yours online at emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes, making memories from scratch.
We are back in from the break here, folks, on the number one ticket for Crimson Tide football news, in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, on a Friday, the eve of Alabama-Kentucky, taking place on tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Time kickoff. SEC Network will have the game inside Bryant-Denny Stadium after 2 off weeks. But we're back in from the break, and it's time to get to these phone lines to take your calls. 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice be heard. 205-448-1358, and one more time, 205-448-1358. The call segment brought to you by the Blue Wrench Gang. We take our first call of the evening. You're live on the show. What's going on?
Not much. I want to talk about Jaylen Waddle. I want to go back to Tua's injury from last year. He hurt his ankle last year too. Came back, hurt his hip, then he came back and played. But then he skipped his senior season because he wanted to be healthy for the pros. Now Jaylen Waddle, he's not 100%, I don't think, but either way it goes, if he skips the senior season or not, he'll be healthy as an ox next year, in my opinion. Now, Alabama was going to be good this year, regardless of the COVID-19. So that's my thoughts.
Good point right there. I mean, I know Waddle would like to be on the field back with his teammates to play this year at some point. He's going to push to the rehab to give himself an opportunity. But the good news is right now he is out of the cast. He is in the walking boot. He is going through here with the rehab. But definitely appreciate the call, man. Keep listening to us. Absolutely. We got our, as always, folks, 205-448-1358, the number to call in. 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice be heard on the show on today. Now, as you're getting your thoughts together, cool topic here. Mac Jones and William Anderson. Mac Jones, the redshirt junior quarterback. William Anderson, the true freshman and outside linebacker. Both guys have been added as candidates to the Maxwell Football Club watch list. In terms of Mac Jones is up for the Maxwell Award, which goes to college football's Player of the Year. And Will Anderson is up for the Chuck Bednarik Award, which goes to college football's Defensive Player of the Year. So it's now award season in college football. And normally when it's award season, Alabama is usually in the front of the line for those awards, with the exception of last year, where I just don't know what happened. There were a lot of Alabama players that should have been finalists for awards, and it just did not fall that way. A lot of you said it was Alabama fatigue, and I definitely see that. People are tired of seeing Alabama on top, and people are tired of seeing Alabama get the praise and the glory and the glamour and the glow. They want to see somebody else go on a 10-plus year run of doing those things, and that's why you're seeing so many people of national media want to see, Clemson go on that run, or Ohio State go on that run, or Georgia go on that run. Just some team other than Alabama go on a 10-plus year run where it's constantly in the conversation to win a national championship. But kudos there to Mac Jones and Will Anderson. This is a big deal for both of these two being in the race or being thought of for these awards. Once again, this comes from the Maxwell Football Club Foundation, where Mac Jones is a candidate for the Maxwell Award, College Football Player of the Year, and Will Anderson a finalist. Well, not a finalist, but Will Anderson a candidate for the Chuck Bednarik Award, which goes to the Defensive Player of the Year in college football. We take another call right now on the show. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on tonight? Live on the show, caller. You're live on the show. We lost that call right there. Definitely be sure to call back in the second call segment. But we're going to take a break right now on the show. But upon our return, we will sit down. We will sit down with my man Michael Bennett, who covers the Kentucky Wildcats for JustTheCats.com. Michael Bennett, beat reporter and radio host for the Kentucky Wildcats. We're going to talk this matchup between Alabama and Kentucky right after this.
You know what we do at the start of the fourth quarter. We throw them foes up. But now you don't have to wait until the fourth quarter. Get your four-finger bling necklace at WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. It's the first and only logo that captures the essence of all Crimson Tide players and fans as we represent the legendary Alabama football fourth quarter dominance. Get your four-finger bling necklace right now at WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. Get yours today and stun on them haters. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
And we are back into the action here, ladies and gentlemen, from the break on the number one forum for Crimson Tide football news. That's In My Own Words with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine on a Friday, getting you set up for Alabama, Kentucky this weekend. On Saturday, 3 p.m. Central Time kickoff from Bryant-Denny Stadium, SEC Network will have the call. Be sure to like the show on YouTube. Like the show up, give a thumbs up on the show, hit that subscribe button, turn all of those notifications on so that way you can have the best in news, notes, and alerts here on your Crimson Tide. But we make our way over to the In My Own Words hotline where we pick up Michael Bennett, beat reporter and radio host for the Kentucky Wildcats, all things Kentucky athletics. Michael, what's going on? How you feeling?
Listen, I'm extremely confident, looking forward to that kickoff tomorrow to see Alabama lose their first game of the season.
We got Michael Bennett here on the line, talking some Alabama, Kentucky here with us. Talking some Alabama, Kentucky here with us on the show. So, Michael, tomorrow going to be a kind of an old school in the trenches showdown between the Tide and the Wildcats. And it's a stark difference between what we've seen all season with how explosive these offenses have been in college football. So, we look at Mark Stoops this season. Mark Stoops has turned the culture of the program around since he got to Big Blue Nation in 2013. The last 4 to 5 years, a lot of winning seasons going on there. So I know Kentucky had a lot of expectations this year, especially with the pieces back on the roster on offense, especially the offensive line. But how have the people been feeling so far about, Mark Stoops this season?
Well, I mean, they're still very much involved in the football program, and I guess there's been a little bit of, a lot of disappointment because of the fact that we've played so inconsistent on both sides of the ball. I mean, we thought the offense was going to be much better, especially the fact that, this is a historical front line that we call the Big Blue Wall. That is really seasoned, and what we usually don't have at Kentucky is size. Now we've got size, not just on the offensive side, but the defensive side too. So it's been a little bit of a disappointment. I know Mark Stoops has really struggled with answering questions when it came to the inconsistencies of the offense, and then another game that defense will struggle. I mean, goodness sakes, we just let Vanderbilt, the bottom of the echelon when it comes to the SEC, score 35 points against us, and that's the same defense that only scored allowed 14 points against them when it came to Georgia. So it's been a mystery, quite honestly, Stephen.
Now, of course, when you look at the quarterback play here, Michael, and we are on the phone lines with Michael Bennett, the beat reporter and radio host for all things Kentucky athletics here on the phone lines. If you're just tuning into the show, the quarterback play of Kentucky, I thought it would be a little bit better this season, especially with Terry Wilson back. And, of course, Kentucky made the move to pull Joey Gatewood, the Auburn transfer, from the portal right there. So you thought, Kentucky would have a bit better quarterback play in terms of stretching the field. Kind of going to what's that battle been like between Wilson and Gatewood and trying to figure out, which one really gives his team the best option to be, a complete team offensively.
Well, that's been a bit of a mystery, too, because you can't put all the blame on Terry Wilson. We talked about the offensive line. They're unbelievable when it comes to rushing the ball, and they create all kinds of holes. We've got some incredible running backs out of Chris Rodriguez and Cavassier Smoke and A.J. Rose. So we got a great group of guys right there that's ready to run the ball. But when it came to pass protection, something kind of failed there, Stephen, and that's been a lot of the mystery as well. So pass protection, not been good. Wide receiver play has been mediocre at best. I mean, we got a great receiver out of a young man named Josh Ali, but other than that, that's been kind of it. Now, when we played Vanderbilt last weekend, we started concentrating on some thoroughbreds that we have in our tight end position, out of Keaton Upshaw and Justin Riggs. And so I'm hoping we're going to see that. None of this throwing the ball in the bubble. We need to throw the ball downfield. And if you see that, then, we're going to be excited what Terry Wilson can do. But, I mean, if he doesn't move the ball, it's going to be interesting to see if they do take it out and then put Joey Gatewood up. So I'm excited about the future because we've got two backups that are really good. Of course, Joey Gatewood, you mentioned. Then we got another true freshman that played football quarterback at Lexington Catholic right in the backyard of UK. And Bo Allen's going to be an unbelievable quarterback for us.
If you're just tuning into the show, ladies and gentlemen, we have Michael Bennett, who is a beat reporter and radio show host for all things Kentucky athletics, Kentucky football, joining us here on the In My Own Words hotline on a Friday. Now, the running backs for Kentucky, this is the big deal right here. When you look at Chris Rodriguez and Asim Rose, both of these two young men can really, really run the football. And it's going to be a huge responsibility for Alabama. Gap assignments, tracking the football, fitting those run lanes, and really tackling these two, especially, Rodriguez is more of a thumper of the two. Watched him against Georgia, had over 100 yards rushing against a Bulldog defense that prides itself on being a good run-stopping group. So breaking down Rodriguez and Rose, what sets these two apart as one of the better 1-2 combinations in the SEC when you break down both guys, and what makes them difficult to tackle, get an angle on, and stopping these two?
Well, with A.J. Rose, it all starts at the front line. And, again, it gets back to those the big beefs up there, the big butts on the offensive line, and they do a great job of blocking and creating holes. And you got speed out of A.J. Rose, but then Chris Rodriguez, he is the quintessential power runner. Even when you think he is down and the play is over, the guy is still running. And he's getting 1 or 2, 3 extra yards, and that's what's, it's just unusual for Kentucky to have these kind of power runners. We saw it with Benny Snell, who broke every single record in just 3 years at UK. And of course, he graduated a couple years ago now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'll tell you what, Chris Rodriguez, and don't forget about Cavassier Smoke, too. First of all, he's got the greatest name in the world, Cavassier Smoke. And then he's as much of a power runner as Chris Rodriguez is. So it's going to be interesting to see how you watch Alabama's defense, if they're going to be able to hold Chris Rodriguez under 100 yards. Alabama, from what I've learned, Stephen, is not quite the same Alabama defense we see all the time. And it might be fun to see Chris Rodriguez run up the field.
Now, of course, Coach Saban did mention here, Michael, that, it's different in college football now defensively than what it was back then, seeing as how these offenses are putting up points, and you're not going to see too many defenses hold teams between 7 and 8 points per game on average. But this week the program has been focused in on gap assignments, making sure they can stop the run, slow down the run, and play disciplined assignment football. Now, defensively for Kentucky, Mark Stoops, and this is the reason why this year has been so weird. Kentucky is one of the leaders in the SEC for scoring defense, total defense, passing yards allowed, pass efficiency rating given up. They're among the top programs, the top 2 or 3 in the conference in all of these areas. So when you look at this defense for Kentucky, who are some of the guys in your mind, Michael, that really stand out and make this group, what it is, and the guys that, Mac Jones and this offense have to be kind of aware of on Saturday?
Well, I mean, it's going to be, obviously, with our linebackers. You start out with DeAndre Square. You start out with Josh Paschal. These dudes, and you mentioned it's kind of funny how the season's going. We know that it's funny because Kentucky's not a basketball school anymore. You mentioned, but when you were bringing me on, Mark Stoops has changed the culture, and he absolutely has. Culture for UK football has grown exponentially. So I mentioned DeAndre Square. I mentioned Josh Paschal. Quentin Bohanna, who's the nose guard. He is unbelievable at getting to the quarterback and does a phenomenal job. Then we've got a LSU transfer named Bossman Fat, and I tell you what, the dude has, I believe it's 2 pick sixes and just an unbelievable amount of ability and able to read with that quarterback. It's going to be, his reaction is just unbelievable. So, that's Mark Stoops' forte, Stephen. He's a defensive mind. He played defense. He was recruited by your coach. And Mark Stoops has just put his touch in this. And quite honestly, I'm still surprised he's at Kentucky, but he loves it in Lexington, and I'm going to see him there for years to come, just making this team better and better every year.
Coach Stoops trying to bring a serious competition this weekend between Alabama and those Kentucky Wildcats. The Wildcats 3-4 on the year. Could very easily be 5-2 or 6-1. They hung in at a lot of those games. Suffered a 1-point loss to Ole Miss. Was right there with Georgia, but lost 14-3. Was right there against Missouri, lost 20-10. So they've been in a lot of these close football games. So could very easily be either a 5-2 or a 6-1, but they look to come to Bryant-Denny, have a fierce competition here with Coach Saban and the Crimson Tide. But he is Michael Bennett, ladies and gentlemen, covering the Kentucky Wildcats, all things UK athletics, beat reporter and radio show host there. Michael, appreciate you for coming on to talk some Mark Stoops, some Kentucky passing game, Kentucky running backs, and what you look forward to seeing from the Wildcats in this matchup. Appreciate you, man. You take care. Appreciate that from Michael Bennett here coming on, talking some Kentucky football with us. The matchup set up for this weekend at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We take another break right now on the show, but upon our return, we get back to the phone lines to entertain your phone calls, your thoughts, your tweets, your chats, your texts, your chats, and your super chats. We're going to have a dialogue with you, the Alabama fans, right after this.
Don't touch that dial. Call in right now as we're taking your calls up next on In My Own Words with Stephen M. Smith. Brought to you by We Own the Fourth Quarter. Visit WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com now to get your 4-finger bling necklace. You know what we do at the start of the fourth quarter. We throw them foes up. But now you don't have to wait until the fourth quarter. Get your 4-finger bling necklace at WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. It's the first and only logo that captures the essence of all Crimson Tide players and fans as we represent the legendary Alabama football fourth quarter dominance. Get your 4-finger bling necklace right now at WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. Get yours today and stun on them haters. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
All right, people. It is Friday, TGIF edition of the show. We are back into the hottest show on the streets, the number one forum for Crimson Tide football news, in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Appreciating everybody for tuning in to the show on this evening. Be sure to like the show up, like it up, give a thumbs up on the show, hit that subscribe button, turn all of those notifications on so that way you can have all the insight, all the commentary, and entertainment on your Crimson Tide. Before we go back to the phone lines here, we got a couple of super chats to get to. How about the pimp of the Blue Wrench Gang, Senator Hines? Senator Hines dropping in that $19.99 via the super chats, helping us out here on the show. And Bernard Phillips, Bernard Phillips giving us that $10 donation as well. So we appreciate both Senator and Bernard Phillips showing us the love here on TDA. But 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice, your opinions, your thoughts be heard on the show. 205-448-1358. The call segment brought to you by the Blue Wrench Gang. And I believe this is Senator right here. We take this call. Senator, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Stephen? How you guys doing today up there on TDA?
Doing good, man. I mean, tomorrow it's back to football after 2 off weeks. A lot of football withdrawals. So it's going to be back here at Bryant-Denny playing some football this weekend.
Man, let me tell you, I'm so excited to be able to sit and watch some Alabama football tomorrow. Just wanted to weigh in on my predictions for tomorrow. And, you know, I come with the realistic predictions, man. And I'm saying Bama by 90, baby. We going by 90. But nah, for real, man, I see us. I see this as a great competitive assignment discipline type game. Like I said earlier this week, Stephen, I'm looking for what, like you said, Wednesday, those inside linebackers and those D tackles to fill their inside run game, start filling those gaps, man. Like you were saying with the Kentucky writer, Michael, I think his name was Michael Bennett. That offense, man, if that running game gets to rolling, we might have a tighter game than we expect. If our defense doesn't get out there and be aggressive and be very violent in the trenches. Another thing I want Bama fans to look forward to is seeing a little bit deeper wide receiver rotation coming out this week. I think they start to pull back off of Devontae a little and letting these other guys, Slade Bolden, Javon Baker. I saw Thaddeus Jones-Bell was getting reps with first team this week. So I'm excited to see a lot of different jerseys in some actual meaningful game time. And I believe we're going to see Bryce Young earlier this week, which will be awesome because we see how Nick Saban has allowed the play calling to be, no matter the score. He's playing the game to play the game, not to for anybody's feelings. He's still vintage Nick Saban, get on him, take the breath out of him. So I'm excited, man. Alabama football's back. And once again, man, I'm excited to be tuned into the show. Wanted to give a shout out to everybody in the chat, Blue Ridge Gang. Y'all know how we doing. I've been getting over this little cold this week. But, man, I'm telling you, every time I tune into this show, I get all amped up and ready. So, You all be blessed, Stephen. I ain't going to hold the chat up, man. Much love, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. Shout out to John Ivory, too, man, with the 5Bs. I've been on bro's SoundCloud, some nasty stuff there. But y'all be blessed, man. I'll get with y'all later, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate the call. They're coming from one Senator Hines, starting us off in the second call segment on a Friday. We take another call right here on the show. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on? Live on In My Own Words, caller.
Right here on the show. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
So,
Live on In My Own Words, caller.
what do you think about? What do you think about Javon Baker should get more like playing time?
I like Baker.
Javon Baker should get.
Hey, turn your turn the TV down a little bit. Turn the TV down. But I heard your question. Your question was on Javon Baker getting more playing time. I like Baker. He's a physical, rangy guy at 6'1", 6'2". He's got that dog mentality in him in terms of a competitor. I mean, he was the guy that literally forced Terrell Shavers and Tre'Davious Townsend into the transfer portal. So I like the skill set he brings. I like the toughness he brings. I love the ball skills that he brings. Just want to see him get on the field and kind of be that second guy opposite Devontae Smith that can stretch the field. But I like Baker, but definitely appreciate the call, man. I absolutely enjoy Javon Baker. And then going back to what Senator had mentioned earlier, I want to see this defense, the defensive line, and the inside and outside linebackers, read the gap, fit the gap, make plays in the run game. Kentucky will use a lot of that jet boot action as well with wide receiver Josh Ali. So getting to the edge and winning the edge. This is going to be a physical trench warfare. Who wants it more type of matchup on both sides. Now, they're 2 weeks of being off. Want to see Alabama football want it more this week against Kentucky. But another cool topic here as you guys continue to get your thoughts together. 205-448-1358. But I'm going to call in to make your opinion known on the show. 205-448-1358. Oh, and one more time, 205-448-1358. But, Coach Saban is one game at a time. He's one game at a time, one situation at a time, one opponent at a time, and we expect him to be that way. And he's supposed to be that way. He's not supposed to overlook anyone. But U.S. fans and I myself in the media and an enjoyer of college football, we tend to look ahead sometimes because, in college football, especially Alabama football, there are 3 to 4 games a year that you circle on the calendar because those 3 to 4 games are those matchups where you're going to get big television ratings, you're going to get big conversation, you're going to get big debate, big dialogue, big talk. There's a lot of things to discuss in those 3 to 4 matchups. And while, of course, Bama fans were happy for the first game of the season because you got a chance to have football this year. But those 3 games that you were really excited for, number one, of course, was Georgia. Everybody was excited for the Georgia matchup. Georgia's got this defense. This is the best group Kirby Smart's got on paper. Coach Saban and Mac Jones ain't going to be able to handle this Georgia defense. And then Coach Saban with the positive COVID test. Of course, it was a false positive. There was so much to talk about in that Georgia matchup, and even yours truly was featured on the Paul Feinbaum show. So there was so much to talk about in that Georgia matchup. But then the LSU matchup was supposed to be the second highly profiled game. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because of a spike in COVID cases. So now the third matchup, which will be exciting, will be the Auburn matchup, and then the Florida game and the SEC championship, should be fun with Bama and Florida on a collision course to get there. But the topic that everybody's excited about right now is the college football playoff, right? We are in the time of the season where you start to see people kind of put together who will be the best 4 seeds? Who will be the top 4 seeds, the top 4 schools, top 4 programs to get into the college football playoff? And not just that, which team would be the most competitive, tough, frustrating team to go up against Alabama? Which team could give Alabama the toughest time? When you look at the teams that could get in the playoff, of course you have the usual suspects. You got the Clemsons. You got the Ohio States. You got Notre Dame that's having a big year so far. It's already beaten Clemson once, but could it beat the Tigers again in the ACC title game? Remains to be seen. You got BYU undefeated. I know I made fun of BYU before the season started. But that program has proved me wrong. Undefeated. 8-0. One of the top offenses in college football. One of the best defenses in college football. Zach Wilson, the quarterback's a Heisman, contender in this thing here. So BYU is in there. Then you got Cincinnati with a possibility. You got 2 other teams in the SEC, like with Florida and Texas A&M, that's trying to get a shot in here. So the conversation is, who offers the best challenge to Alabama in terms of the playoff? And while a lot of people go with, well, Steven, that's easy, it's Clemson, I don't think it's Clemson. I mean, as good as Trevor Lawrence is, and I know he's getting back from having a positive COVID test and having symptoms of COVID, but he's back now. Prior to that, Trevor Lawrence has not had his best year. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has not been king of the block this year in terms of quarterback play. So, not quite sure what the issue is there. Against Notre Dame, Travis Etienne didn't have his best game there on the ground. Defensively, Clemson was known for having some dogs, some killers, some thugs, some criminals on defense. When you talk Christian Wilkins and Cleveland Farrell and Dorian O'Daniel and Dexter Lawrence and Austin Bryant and Kendall Jones. I mean, they had some dudes on defense in years past. They really did, even in the secondary. So this year, I mean, they've got some good talent, but a lot of these guys, young guys, and they're not really putting that fear in opponents this year on their defensive side of the football. You had Boston College had success against Clemson, a lot of it. BC should have won the game. They sat there and let it go at the end. Notre Dame, took care of Clemson. So it's interesting. To me, I thought the team that would give Alabama the biggest challenge would be Ohio State, with the talent that is Justin Fields, dual threat running quarterback that can throw the ball extremely well, a thicker version of Russell Wilson. Master Teague, he's not an Ezekiel Elliott or a J.K. Dobbins, but a really good back. You've got Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, 2 really good receivers. And then defensively, Ohio State recruits a bunch of talents. Just to me, I feel like the Buckeyes would probably give Alabama the biggest push there in the college football playoff. But we'll see. We'll see how things roll here. But before we take our next break, Senator Hines, got to show some love to the man. Senator dropping in that $2.99 via the Super Chats, donating it here, helping us out at TDA. When we come back from break, I will get into the biggest matchup that is set to take place between Alabama and Kentucky. What is the biggest matchup when you talk about these 2 teams getting together here on the gridiron? We'll talk that after this.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to stsfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to stsfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide. Thank you for tuning in. Show your support right now by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and enable all notifications to make sure you don't ever miss any of the best Alabama football news, notes, and information right here on Touchdown Alabama.
All right, Tide Nation, we are back in here from the break on the hottest show on the streets, the number one ticket, number one source, number one form of entertainment for Alabama football news. That being in my own words with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Appreciating you guys tuning into the show, checking out the show on this evening. And I always give a shout out to my man John Ivory in that production studio, doing his thing as he does 3 days a week as we're bringing you the best in the Crimson Tide football news. And before we jump into the final topic of conversation, got a super chat to shout out here right now. How about Jimmy Clay, people? I mean, give it up for Jimmy Clay. Another $5 donation there for the man Jimmy Clay, helping us out here at TDA. And also, be sure to check out tdawear.com. That is tdawear.com. If you want the one-stop shop for all of your clothing, apparel needs to support your Crimson Tide, tdawear.com is where you go. And we got you with the I Love Here and Touchdown Alabama shirts, the We Want Football shirts, and Let Them Play shirts, all types of hoodies for you right here. So if you want to be dripped up and decked out in Alabama football gear, you go to tdawear.com. That is tdawear.com. Do your shopping right there, showing that support for Coach Saban, the University of Alabama football program, the student athletes, and us here at Touchdown Alabama Magazine. But we look at now the biggest matchup here, the most important matchup here for Alabama, Kentucky in this matchup. And just for me, I find the most important matchup is going to be both offensive and defensive fronts. So the offensive and defensive fronts for both teams, it's going to be old school, big man, bad man, who can flex the most muscle, who can impose their will, who can control the line of scrimmage, right? It's old school football, and it's going to be different from what we've seen this season with the offenses having the spread and the space and the stretch the field and the vertical attack game. It's going to be old school smash mouth football, ball being played in the trenches here. And to me, if I was the betting, gambling, wagering Alabama fan type here, I would take the under in this game. I wouldn't even go over. I would take the under in this game just due to Coach Saban. This will be a game where Saban's going to have the first string out there. They'll handle business. He'll put, the other guys out there on the field. He'll call off the dogs. He'll get some other guys, some reps in there. The line on the game is 31. Alabama could cover that line, but I also see them coming just underneath that 31 point spread right there. So to me, if I was an Alabama fan, honestly, I would take the under, but we shall definitely see what happens. But just getting into, first and foremost, Alabama's offensive line. This is a big day for Alabama's offensive line. I think that Mac Jones is still going to perform well. I still see Mac Jones going out here having a performance where he's 20 for 23 passing, something like that, 275 to 300 yards, 2 to 3 touchdowns, around that stat line right there. But this offensive line is going to be big because Bama's going to want to run this football with Najee Harris, with Brian Robinson, and with Jace McClellan. This is a huge day for the offensive line. And Alabama dropped a hype video. They released a hype video on Twitter yesterday, and the hype video featured Landon Dickerson, the center, lifting weights in the hype video. And there were different voices of sports media talking about the strength of this offensive line, the dominance of this group, the toughness of this group, and it all stems from the toughness that is Landon Dickerson. And it also compared Alabama's offensive front to Kentucky's defensive front. I mentioned how this is a weird year. Kentucky is one of the top schools in the SEC in terms of in terms of a few defensive categories. So this will be the game for Bama's offensive line. And while Alex Leatherwood and Evan Neal, tremendous pass protectors at both tackle spots and accept the run game. Keep your eyes on Dickerson, Deontay Brown, and Emil Ekiyor Jr. The three guys in the phone booth, the center and both guards. Dickerson, Ekiyor Jr., and Deontay Brown. You're going to see a lot of combo blocks. You're going to see a lot of counter blocks, a lot of the guards pulling around, the center maybe pulling around. You're going to see a lot of different blocks from the interior in getting this run game going and springing, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, and Jace McClellan into the second and third levels of Kentucky's defense. So this is a big game for Kyle Flood, and this is a big game for the Alabama offensive line, flexing some muscle, imposing its will up front against a Kentucky defense that's got some veteran leadership at linebacker, that's got some veteran leadership along the defensive line. They don't believe in themselves being pushed around, but this Alabama offensive front, one of the best groups here in the country with 4 or 5 returning starters. Also, this is going to be a huge day for Alabama's defensive front under, of course, Freddie Roach at defensive line coach, Pete Golding, defensive coordinator and inside linebackers coach. This is a big day for Bama's defensive front. Why? Because gap discipline, following the flow of the football, stuffing the run will be very important. Chris Rodriguez Jr. and Asim Rose, both guys really, really good backs here for Kentucky. Kentucky will also run with its quarterbacks. It will run with Terry Wilson. It will run with Joey Gatewood. It will have Josh Ali, the wide receiver, do some jet boot, jet sweep actions to the edge. And this is not your typical just line the ball up and run Kentucky team. They will use a lot of motion. Think about Auburn here for a second. Auburn under Gus Malzahn, they throw a lot of eye candy at you, a lot of motion, a lot of different shifts and moves and formations, and then they snap the ball and run their play. Think of Kentucky doing a little bit of that right there. It'll be some shifts. It'll be some moving parts. It'll be a lot of moving around prior to the snap of the football. So the eye discipline of guys like DJ Dale, Byron Young, Fadarian Mathis, Justin Aboigbe, LeBrian Ray, should he play in this game, Christian Barmore. Eye discipline will be very, very important. Eye discipline, following the flow of the football, maintaining, controlling your gap, knifing through there, and getting those tackles for loss in the backfield, preventing Kentucky from really being able to lean on this defensive front with its big, offensive line. And, of course, the inside linebacker position, Christian Harris, Dylan Moses. Christian Harris spoke this week in player interviews about how Najee Harris, going up against the senior running back in practice every day, has kind of prepared him for this game right here against Kentucky. For Christian Harris, it's flying in there, sticking his nose in there, getting those tackles, wrapping up, fitting the run gaps, tackling the ball carriers of the Wildcats. Same thing for Dylan Moses. Not being tentative, not being anxious, not being nervous, not being hesitant. Fly in there, boom! Knife your way in there, fit those run gaps, make those tackles there in the run game for Alabama's defense. And on top of that, even the outside linebackers, Christopher Allen and Will Anderson, being able to win the edges there on the outside. Last but not least, big day for Alabama secondary for one reason. Tackling. Alabama secondary. Daniel Wright, Jordan Battle, those guys have got to wrap up and finish tackles. Not just hit, but finish the play. Got to finish the play this week, whether you're in run support. Got to finish the play this week, whether Kentucky does take some shots downfield and hit some receivers. Got to be able to finish the play on the back end. Critical there for the Alabama secondary. But to me, this is going to be an old school smash mouth, mano and mano, flex muscle type of a football game. Some old school smash mouth ball. Looking forward to that. But As always, people, you want the best in news, notes, information, and coverage here on your Crimson Tide. It's very simple and easy to access this. You can download the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. Now, you can get the app from the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you've got the Android phone. For your audio listening needs, we got you right here on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play, Overcast.fm, TuneIn Radio, or iHeartRadio. We got you right here. Got a couple of final super chats to shout out now. So how about Corey Curry? Corey Curry donating that $2.99 via the super chats. Appreciate that from Corey Curry. And Matt B, also known as Mattress Matt. Mattress Matt donating that $5 via the super chats there, helping us out here at TDA. As always, Tide Nation, you can purchase individual copies of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, have those sent to your door. That link will be found in the description. And also, you can get that 4-finger bling necklace courtesy of WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. That link will be in the description as well. And one more thing, you can check out the game day chat, the TDA live game day chat. You go to touchdownalabama.com. That is touchdownalabama.com to be a part of the live game day chat on tomorrow. Chatting it up with either John Ivory, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, or just Justin Smith, Patrick Dow, all of us. Go to touchdownalabama.com and check out the TDA live game day chat. That link will be found in the description. Also, if you want to check out the game preview, the game day preview prior to Alabama, Kentucky, that will be released today also. Just immediately after the show, we will be releasing the game day preview for Touchdown Alabama Magazine featuring Patrick Dowd, one of our esteemed writers and reporters, and yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, breaking down the matchup between Alabama, Kentucky in the game day preview. But until next time, folks, husbands love your wives. Wives appreciate, value those husbands. Children continue to do those things legitimately now to not be bored as the weekend is in. Get you those 3 hearty meals a day, those 3 great laughs a day. Protect yourself. Protect the loved ones around you. Enjoy the game this weekend. Till next time, folks, spit in my own words.